I lost it one day. I'm not going to lie. I lost it. And one day I walked into the office and he said, Amy, where's your mask? And I said, they don't work anyway. And he said, come to my office. So a couple of weeks later, he fired me. And a lot of it was because he said I was kind of taking over his business. Like I was.
You're building your own brand within his business.
That's what it was.
What it really boiled. That was his quote unquote reasoning, because there was no other reason as she was thriving and building that practice.
So anyway, but it's kind of funny how it all happened. And I knew I was not going to hit the ground. Like I knew something else was out there for me. Welcome to Look Good, Feel Good with Matt and Amy McKinley, the podcast where we bring you expert advice and honest, real talk on health, wellness, and feeling your absolute best. From hormone optimization to aesthetics and everything in between, we're here to help you live your best life. Let's dive in.
This is our first episode. We're very excited to do this. Our goal is to really help people feel good and look good and live their best life.
We're going to be talking a little bit about like different things like peptides and hormones and all things that make you feel good and look good. However, we want to kind of first start kind of with our story and kind of explain how we got here. Matt and I are married. We've been married how many years, honey? Is it 31? 31 years.
31 blissful years.
Yes. And
minus a few. Just kidding.
We have 5 kids. We have 3 of our own, and we took in 2 boys when they were teenagers. And that's another podcast, another story that we'll maybe discuss. But kind of how we got to where we are with our regenerative and joint clinic and how we became where we are. So we're both PAs.
Yep, we're both PAs. We've been doing it for a long time. We both had previous careers. Mine was mostly in orthopedics and Amy mostly in dermatology. So we took our knowledge from those careers, but really dove deep into hormones as well. And we've kind of merged everything together to bring the best of what we have to share with others.
Yeah. I think it's kind of interesting how it all came to play. We'll kind of go back a few years to how this all started. I was working in a dermatology practice. Matt was working orthopedics and doing total joints.
And this is about COVID, right?
Yeah, COVID. It was 2020. It was actually March of 2020. Matt had kind of been thinking about kind of opening up his own practice, kind of going on his own.
Yeah, in fact, it was very interesting because I had visited with the physician I was working with, a really fantastic total joint surgeon. And I told him, I said, I was out at his house. He's got a beautiful home outside of Pocatello in the mountains. And I was helping him do a little yard work out there one day. And I said, hey, I've really had this feeling that I need to do something where I can add more to the people I serve. So we started looking for a little place for me to start a practice. And then...
Well, then in March, then COVID hit. And it was one of those times, it was kind of a weird time. You guys all know. The physician I worked with was, it's kind of interesting as I go back and look. I had started to I was in a dermatology practice and the way it was structured, it was kind of like you eat what you kill. It was basically got paid on a percentage of what you brought into the practice. So I thought to myself, hey, if I build my practice, build up me, and I can get busier and make more money. That's what I kind of was thinking.
But also at the same time, really produce high for the clinic, which made a significant profit off of that.
So I started learning social media, learning how to do like videos. It was like big when Sandra Lee was doing pimple popping, Dr. Pimple Popper. So I started, posting videos on pimple popping stuff. And anyways, I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but started to learn a little bit. I actually paid a lady to help me learn how to do social media. And so I started kind of doing my own little website and I started to build up a little practice inside the practice. Anyway, when COVID hit, me and the doctor didn't see eye to eye on how COVID was supposed to be handled. I didn't believe in the big hype. I didn't believe in all of the stuff was going on in the country. And he was scared. And I don't know, I had been reading all these books on leadership. And I lost it one day. I'm not going to lie. I lost it. And one day I walked into the office and he said, Amy, where's your mask? And I said, they don't work anyway. And he said, come to my office. And so we go into his office and I basically lost it and said, as a leader of a corporation, you put your game face on, you tell everyone it's going to be okay. I just had a really hard time not seeing, like, I don't lead by fear. And it was very difficult for me to see that. So a couple of weeks later, he fired me. And a lot of it was because he said I was kind of taking over his business. Like I was.
You're building your own brand within his business.
That's what it was.
What it really boiled. That was his quote unquote reasoning, because there was no other reason as she was thriving and building that practice.
So anyway, but it's kind of funny how it all happened. I walked in and he let me go and he said, "Wow, you're not upset. You're not crying." And I said, "Well, you know what? I'm going to be fine." Like I knew I was going to be fine. And I knew I was not going to hit the ground. Like I knew something else was out there for me.
Yeah. So kind of back to the original story where we were looking for a place for my practice. Right at that moment, it was like a 180 shift. We said, "Okay, Amy, we've got this place. We've already been talking to the ownership for a lease. This is now yours, and let's make it into what you want." But before that, she had, like, within 24 hours, 3 job offers, which didn't surprise me at all because she's amazing. If you've ever met her and been with her, she's amazing. But
so
sorry.
It's one of those things where I was really worried about where my patients were going to go. Like that was my biggest worry, is like, who's take care of them? I was just like concerned because it's just one of those things where like, you don't want anyone else taking care of your patients. And I just felt like, oh no, like who are they going to go see? And like Matt said, I'd had some job offers and I thought, okay, well, I'll just go to this one job. And it's a big corporation, big hospital, working family practice, because I couldn't work derm. I had to non-compete with the physician I worked with for 1 year. I signed a 1 year non-compete, even though they don't hold up in court. However,
and now it's obsolete.
Yeah, but then it was, and he would have taken me to court, and I just didn't want to have to deal with it. So I signed to go work for this physician, and as I was driving to go fill out the paperwork for HR, I just thought to myself, I can't do this. I can't work for somebody else. I build up these practices, and it's just as hard because I just can't.
You basically thought, why build up someone else's practice and end up frustrated?
Yep.
At the end of the day,
because it was never done the way I wanted it done. Like the customer service wasn't the way it should be. Exceptional. It should be this, and I had no say because it wasn't my practice. So I turned around and came home, and I told the physician that I'm sorry, I can't work for you, and I didn't know what the heck I was going to do. But I knew I was going to do something.
Yeah, she told me, she was like, "Matt, I pulled over. I couldn't do it." I said, "Okay, let's go. We're going to be fine. We'll find a way to make this, but we're going to start really getting things figured out."
Yeah. So we ended up, there's some struggles a little bit with physician assistants being able to practice on your own. It wasn't in Idaho. There's some laws. And so we had to kind of find a supervising physician that would work with me, which we did. We found one. And I couldn't do anything dermatology, and I couldn't do anything aesthetics. So we opened up under M&A Medical. I remember because it stands for.
She wanted A&M Medical, by the way, but that name was not available, so we had to go with M&A.
So it's Matt and Amy instead of Amy and Matt, but good. Whatever. So we opened up this little practice, and I had a nurse that came over with me,
who was also fired by that doctor. By the way.
So he fired me and my nurse, and we took on the world and opened up this little practice. And it was, slow at first because we couldn't really advertise. I just wanted to be under the radar. And I also worked my side hustle job too. I also did a side hustle job where I went around the country and taught different aesthetics. Like some of the people didn't want to travel, and I was fine to travel with COVID. And I traveled all over the country and taught. And it was one of those things where I knew there was something else out there. Like I knew I was doing it for a reason. There was a couple of reasons why I did it. I did it because, one, I was given a lot doing aesthetics, learning. I've been doing it since 2005, 6.
Well, I would interject and say she taught herself. She wasn't given a lot. She learned on her own. She paid her own way. She went to courses. She trained. She kept learning. So Yeah. When you say given a lot, I would say you worked your tail
Well,
off.
yeah, but at the same time, I felt like I had
Blessed.
learned a lot and was blessed.
Yeah.
So I felt like I could give back to other people. Second reason why I did it is because I felt like I could learn from other people, like leadership and how they ran their business. I wanted to know how people ran their businesses so I could become better. And so I knew there was something, a reason why I was doing it. I knew there was a reason why. And this kind of leads into how this all came to be.
Yeah. So Amy traveled all over the country from Hawaii to the East Coast to the West Coast, you name it. She was doing trainings, thriving in that. She was gone a lot, which was kind of hard, but she had the opportunity to see a lot of places. She was in a clinic doing some training on aesthetics, and it was a hormone clinic as well. And she looked at their model and she was like, wow, this makes sense. It's a clinic in
No, it's
Germantown, excuse me. I wanted to say Georgetown, Idaho, Germantown, Wisconsin. And anyway, she looked at this model and she was like, Matt, you got to look at this. And I was kind of like, oh, I don't really know if I want to do that. Although I had always had a huge interest in hormones. And as we age, how that can really help us feel better, look better, and live an abundant life. So she came back after that and told me about it. And I was kind of like, I don't know. But
Well, it was one of those things where I had a lot of patients that came in, a lot of women, and they would tell me, kind of how they were suffering. And I was just like, I wish I could help them with some things. I just knew, I didn't know if I could do it, if I was personally the one that could do it, but I knew there was a need for it. And I actually had, was interested for myself.
the symptoms that
And
she was having,
well,
yeah.
the thing is, and I had dabbled in it. I had done pellets, testosterone pellets. I had done some other things. And I always felt like there was something better. There had to be better something than pellets. There had to be something. I mean, and pellets are great. Give me,
No,
but
they're not.
well, I'm just saying it's one of those things where there's a place for them. However,
In the garbage.
yeah,
I'm just kidding.
I started, think there's got to be something better. And so when I would travel around the country and see these clinics, and sometimes they'd have these, they'd all do testosterone pellets or they do something else, and it wasn't really what I was thinking. And I really wanted to solve a couple of problems. There had to be a couple of problems that would solve. Just the hormone programs had to be simple, meaning for a busy person, they had to be, I didn't have to go in the doctor's office all the time. The lab work was always freaking expensive. It was always like $1,200 to do your labs. And I was like, okay, there's got to be something better out there. So when I ran into this clinic in Germantown, Wisconsin, Lindsay, when I first go into a clinic, I always kind of want to know how they run their clinic, kind of what they do. And so she showed me a tour, and she was a nurse practitioner that specialized a little bit in orthopedics, and she did stem cells and hormones in her program. She showed me her program, and I was like, this is what I've been looking for. So that's why I said, Matt, for how I sold it is basically I said, she does orthopedic like stem cells. I think you should come and see what she does. So that's kind of how I sold it.
That was her hook.
Yeah.
So yeah, she told me about it. And she was going back out, right? Again.
We were, and then we flew out there. We flew out there and looked over her place, and Matt wasn't quite sold. With stem cells, it's one of those things where you knew a little bit about it from like different conferences that you'd gone to, but really it wasn't really talked about.
And I'd always had a huge interest in stem cells, like another way our bodies can heal themselves without a major surgery or just soft tissue repair, tendons, injuries, those types of things, arthritis. And when I got out there, I saw some of those patients and how well they were doing. What I had done in the past is always just, fix people conservatively as long as they could and then off to a surgery. So that was my mode of thought. So I had to really be convinced that this stuff would work or not. And if it didn't, I was just going to say, okay, I researched it. What I found right away as I saw people, I'd see their x-rays and I'm like, okay, this is bone on bone arthritis. There's no way this patient is feeling better. And I'd go in and talk to him. And I remember the first guy I saw, Norwegian farmer. I saw his x-rays and he had been treated about a month ago. And I said, how's your knee doing? It was bone on bone. He said, oh, it's about 80 to 100% better. I was like, you really? He goes, yeah, my doctor told me my only option was a total joint. When I saw that, I thought, well, that's one. So I'm not going to lay any stock in one patient, but I kept seeing this recurrent theme of these people seeing significant progress and feeling so much better and getting their quality of life back. And that's what I wanted to do, is get the quality of life back for others and actually myself.
Yeah. So we kind of took the program and kind of implemented it into what we have, the regenerative and joint clinic. So Matt was still working full time at the orthopedics. We had opened up the M&A Medical. I worked through 1 year of our non-compete, and then we switched to the skin clinic and aesthetics. So we had the skin clinic and aesthetics, and we had the regenerative and joint clinic. And we found a building, and we bought a building. Remember?
Yeah, this is a year later. Well, 2 years later from when you opened your practice almost.
Yeah.
But to backtrack a little bit, I started doing some hormone optimization therapy in that first building we were talking about. Probably saw a hand, maybe 10 or 15 patients there, and got that rolling. And it blew me away of how much better people felt and how their quality of life improved.
Yeah.
So I was then sold 100% on both hormone optimization and stem cell therapy. So I dove in head first. I wanted to build a certain clientele so I could work both jobs for a while. I was full-time orthopedics. And then afterwards I'd go and work at the other clinic. So, putting in some long hours.
Yeah. And we kind of thought, okay, if we get around 50 people into the program, our Feel Good program, then Matt could come over full time.
Quit my orthopedic job and do this full time.
And, it was one of those things where it was a little, it's a little nerve wracking because it's a little scary on taking those risks, because we weren't quite, I remember thinking, we don't know everything yet. Like, we didn't know everything yet, but I'm like, you're not going to know everything yet until you get into it. And then you start working it and you start figuring things out and making those mistakes, but then correcting them and making it better. So we, came together, and as this has progressed, I used to think, oh, I can't do hormones because it's too complicated. It's too scary. And as I've seen Matt, practice and seen the change that people have had in their life.
What she really thought is I'm way smarter than him, so if he can do it, I can do it.
No, I did not. But I thought, you know what? I can make such a big difference. So we had two practices. They were kind of split off, the regenerative and joint clinic and the skin clinic and aesthetics. And we thought, you know what? So 2023, we decided to combine the two practices together and make the regenerative and joint clinic plus aesthetics. So there was some remodeling because there was walls up.
Twice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me tell you a funny story with this. So when we were coming together, so we had the two separate businesses, regenerative and joint clinic and skin clinic plus aesthetics. So we purchased two suites and combined them with a common wall and common doors, but it was like separated. It was like two different businesses. So we're getting ready to kind of put all this together. And I was asking my oldest son, Rhett, I said, Rhett, what do you think about these doors? And he goes, Dad, if you want to save your marriage, don't even put those doors in, make it a full wall and have two separate entrances. But we didn't do that because, we were nervous about practicing together. We didn't know how it would go, if like we could coexist. We're both fairly competitive. We both, do things differently, but we made common doors that entered both spaces. And then after a year, we blew that wall out and we decided we had to combine, and we were both wrong. We actually, I'll speak for myself. I absolutely love practicing with Amy. It's been amazing. She's my business partner. She's my partner in life, wife, mother. I couldn't ask for anything better. And it honestly, we've been super blessed.
Yeah, we have. And it really has been nice to be able to work together and create a business that is helping people. And that's, I think, the biggest thing that I have had the biggest joy. I think me and Matt, even sometimes after our day, we'll talk about how blessed we are and how but to be able to help people's lives change, to help people, people feel good. Because they've been searching for something. They've been searching for a way they're just done with medicine saying, your labs look fine. There's I don't know what's wrong with you. And then just kind of shutting them out the door and not even realizing what's going on. And I really truly think that there's been a disservice, especially to women, 'cause I'm a woman, that we have kind of, gaslit women and not addressed those things that have gone on and those changes that happen, even when we're even young. I mean, hormones play a huge role. And I think we need to be better practitioners and better providers of learning it and helping people.
Yeah, like Amy said, the reason we do this is because we love to help people. Really, bottom line. And we've been blessed to find a way that we can have a career in doing that and really helping people live an abundant life. One of our slogans is get back to your best self. We were able to experience that personally, and it's an ongoing process. And we can help others do that. That's what really, at the end of the day, when we talk, we're not talking about much other than people that we've been able to help and how good they feel, and that brings us a lot of happiness.
So I think, I go back in time and I think about being fired from a job, and I think about how that could have been such a negative impact in my life. And I think of it as such a positive thing. And I'm so grateful for the time I did have. And I'm so grateful that I had to experience that, because I don't think if I would have been fired, I don't think I would have been able to do what I do, because I needed to have that fire.
That jump off the cliff.
Well, like
pushed
it was
off
like,
the
I almost
cliff.
felt like I got pushed off a cliff,
Yeah.
and I felt like this person was going to watch me fall and kind of like laugh, or, like, I showed you. But I knew I wasn't going to fall. Like, I knew in my soul that I would somehow, I know this sounds crazy, but sprout wings and learn how to fly before I hit the ground. I just knew that wasn't my calling. It wasn't my time. And so I'm so glad that happened to me in order to show me what I could do and what we could do. And having a partner, in business to help each other, to push each other, to say, we can do this. We can, create something, an amazing thing. And we're so proud of what we've created and our staff, and we expect excellence in all we do. And it's been just amazing.
Yeah. I'll tell you our three core values just because, and these have evolved. We had about 6 or 7, and we've broken them down to things that encompass everything that we're about. And the first one is integrity. So impeccable character. That is one of the things that is the most important with everything that we do. We want that to be what people know about us, that we have impeccable character. We are going to do our very best. Another one, which brought us here, is courageous growth. That one is hugely important to us, to do things that are hard, because we both had, we could have went back and said, yeah, I'll sit back and get a nice paycheck every 2 weeks and just cruise through life. But that's not what we want. We want growth, courageous growth, doing things that are hard. And do you want to tell them about the third one?
Well, the third one is just exceptional customer experience. We want our people to have an experience, and like when they walk out of here, just to be like, wow, that was different. That felt different. You guys really care, because that's what we're about. We're not, it's kind of funny. I could probably do this for free. I know, Matt, you have to make money in order to do things, but it's one of those things where I just love what I do. And we really, truly love our people that we work with and want good things for people. And
we do, for sure. This little podcast may have seemed a little bit serious, but we wanted to get our story out there a little bit. We want to make this fun and educational. So as we go forth, we're going to talk about topics that you want to hear about that make your life more fulfilling, but we're all about also enjoying life and having a good time. So I think it's going to be really fun. I'm excited to do it and see what we can do with this.
We've been talking about it a long time to do a podcast, and it's just been one of those things where I bought this podcast machine, got about 5 years ago, or actually during COVID, because I had some friends and I that we started a podcast, and it was more of like women in business and talking about those things. But I always felt like giving back, like there's a way for us to give back. And so on our next episodes, we'd like to hear from you guys to see what you'd be interested in listening to. A lot of times, maybe we'll be interviewing people in this field, or sometimes we'll even have our kids on and talk about growing up in the McKinley family and how that was, and the dynamics of, kind of a family where we've taken in some kids and kind of how that was. But I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be exciting. We're excited to be here and serve you guys.
Yeah, we are stoked. This is going to be awesome. As we evolve, we'll do more and more. Please forgive us for our shortcomings right now. This is our first one. We're getting this figured out. But our theme is right on the wall. Look good, feel good. That's what we want to bring to you.
So thanks, guys.
Have a great day.